Howdy, Psych92 here, and this is the first episode of my synthesizer design series where I'm going to be designing hardware synthesizers step by step to help shed some light on how to go about creating your own hardware rigs. In this episode, I'm going to be talking a bit about why I'm making the series structure, and some difficulties faced when teaching synthesizer design, some prerequisites you're going to need to get started, and then finally I'm going to talk a bit about our first project. So first, why exactly am I making the series? Well, there's a couple reasons. There's a chance that some of you might know me from Dark Arcade, which was a canceled Kickstarter project that I had been working on, which is this thing right here. So after I canceled the Kickstarter, which I did when it became evident that funding would not be reached, I did some thinking about what I was going to do with all the work that I did. And I also told some of my backers that Dark Arcade would be back in some form. When I got into synthesizers many years ago, budget synths weren't really a thing. I mean, they kind of were, but it was really just the microchord, so I was really interested in building my own synthesizers, and eventually I wanted to one day bring a synthesizer to market that was affordable for kids like me. So fast forward to today, affordable synths are everywhere. Even the most wildest analog synthesizers that I wouldn't even dream of having back in the day are being made for peanuts in China by Behringer. Things have changed very rapidly, and so for that reason I feel like there's not really a market for Dark Arcade anymore. After coming to that realization, I also thought about how rapidly things have changed in the maker scene, and how average people with little to no background in electrical engineering, computer science, and manufacturing are making really cool things with state-of-the-art tech that anyone can just buy off the internet. All the components necessary to make high-quality audio gear are just a few clicks away, and there's so many possibilities opened up with things like 3D printing, and it's super exciting because it feels like it's the age of real cyberpunks. So I thought maybe it's time for some people to change the way that they make electronic music. Maybe some cyberpunks are interested in the technology as much as they are the music, like I am. And I feel like this is already going on, but it's just not as accessible as it should be. Of course, this isn't for everyone. Some people can't be bothered with the frustration that comes along with designing hardware. But if you think this might be for you, my goal is really to empower you to build your own electronic musical instruments and start making music with them. I would really like to see a world where handmade electronic music is something of its own subgenre. The availability is definitely there. I think that most people just don't know where to start, and hopefully I can help with that. So yeah, basically I just want to help people who are interested in electronic music and technology and help them get off the ground and start making their own electronic musical instruments and start making music with them. Okay, so next I should talk about how the series is going to go. I really don't want the series to simply be a project series in the sense of you build a project and you don't really know how it works. Teaching a workflow is really my goal, so I really encourage you guys to do different ways of doing the same thing, adding different features, and really just making each of the projects your own. And that's really the way that you're going to learn. Ultimately, I want you to be able to abandon the series when you have enough knowledge to start building your own synthesizers completely off of your own ideas. That said, there are some serious difficulties when it comes to teaching synthesizer and audio equipment design. The fact is there's a monumental amount of knowledge that goes into the design of audio equipment. You need to know electrical engineering, computer science, digital audio concepts, mathematics, and you're also going to need to know a lot of practical things because if you're doing this at a hobbyist level, you're going to be doing a lot of things with your hands. So what I'm really trying to say is I can't take the time to introduce each of these concepts at a beginner level because the episode lengths would be hours long and we wouldn't really get anything done. So my goal instead is going to be to introduce concepts as they come along and then also give you the information that you need to further your knowledge on these concepts if you want to. Next, I want to go over the prerequisites, and these are things that you're going to want to have at least a basic understanding of before we start our first project. The first is digital audio basics. You're going to want to know things like sampling, Nyquist frequency, latency, and other basic digital audio concepts. The next is basic electrical engineering concepts. You're going to want to know Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's current and voltage laws, and also just what resistors, capacitors, diodes, and other passive components do to circuits. You should also know how to use breadboards and protoboards to prototype circuits. We're going to be building these projects step by step, so you're going to need to know how to prototype circuits. You're also going to need to know how to use C and later C++. Our first project is going to be built with C, and we're going to be doing some slightly advanced things with it. You're definitely going to want to know how pointers work. It's also going to help a lot if you have a small electronics lab. You don't really need to, but it's going to make certain things a lot easier. Like, it's going to be really helpful if you have an oscilloscope. I'm going to link a Dave Jones video from EUV blog, and that goes over just how to build a small, affordable electronics lab. So that pretty much wraps up the prerequisites. Remember, you don't have to be a master of any of these topics. If you have a basic understanding, you're going to be fine moving forward. And also, you could just learn as you go along. Now let's get to talking about our first project. The most intuitive way for me to teach you synthesizer design is to make a monophonic digital analog bass synthesizer. And it's going to have a digital oscillator section and analog filter, amplifier, and envelope generator sections. We're going to call our project BitBass, with the 5s coming from the 555 timer IC, which is going to be the heart of our envelope generator section. And the architecture for BitBass is going to be heavily influenced by Dark Arcade. Normally I like to start off digital projects with bare microcontrollers and then build circuits around that, but since I'm trying to make the series accessible, I don't want to have people go out and buy programmers like this AdApMel Ice Basic, which is not cheap. So for that reason, we're just going to go with the Arduino Uno dev board, which has an Atmega 328P microcontroller, and it's fairly affordable. This is going to have a few drawbacks though. The first is that the Atmega 328P has abysmal processing power and memory, so we're going to have to make some serious cutbacks in the digital oscillator section that's going to make it less than optimal. It is, however, going to add some character to the sound, in my opinion anyway. So the other drawback is going to be that you won't know exactly how to set up the circuit if you didn't want to use the Arduino dev board. I'm going to try and address this in future episodes, but essentially setting up the circuit would just involve placing the microcontroller next to a few key capacitors and a crystal oscillator. We're going to work incrementally on the project, so each of the episodes is going to tackle one or more sections of the synthesizer. Also, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. This is not going to be the best way to do all these things. It's not going to be hi-fi audio. This is essentially me trying to teach at the closest level to beginner as possible, while teaching the most information possible, if that makes sense. So we talked a bit about why I'm making the series structure, and some difficulties faced when teaching synthesizer design, some prerequisites, and then also we talked a bit about our first project, BitBass. In the next episode, we're going to set up and test the peripherals of BitBass, including audio output and MIDI input and output. And as of the time of posting this, the next episode should already be out, so I'll see you in the next one.